Welcome or welcome back to my booktube channel called Goddess of Gore. My name is Vix and I like to talk about horror, thriller, sometimes fantasy and occasionally sci-fi books every week. This video is all about my April TBR, which includes physical, audio and ebooks. So let's get on with it. This is going to be a pretty productive month for me because at the end of the month I will be taking part in the Spring Fling-a-Ween set up by Gabby from Gabby Reads and Olivia from Olivia Reads a Latte. So I'll tell you what I've decided for that and the prompts at the end of the video. So first, the physical books for April will be first, Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And can you guess, this is my in-person local book club's pick for the month. This is set in North Carolina in two timelines of 1952 and 1969. A girl named Kaya Clark, who's supposed to be the March girl, who has haunted Barclay Cove and blamed for murder some handsome young man. But she's just a lonely, sensitive girl, aren't we all, darling, who's been raised in the marshes yearning for love. But when she meets two men who are intrigued by a wild beauty, the unthinkable happens. Sounds like a bit of a murder mystery, perhaps. Now that's out of the way, I can get on with my own choices. First of all is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This will be popping up in my book haul for the month because I have the ebook from my library, but I did buy a physical second-hand copy while I was buying the rest of the series because my library didn't have the whole Winter Night trilogy available. So I thought I'd keep an eye out for them used. Anyway, this is based on Russian folklore and tells the fairy tale-esque story of an elderly servant who tells the children of the house old stories of sorcery, magic and a winter king, all of which were frowned upon by the church. The snow and the frozen winds that blow through the book set the atmosphere for the wilderness of northern Russia, where Vasya, a young wild girl who sees house spirits that guard her home, can sense the forces of magic in the woods that surround them. This sounds fantastic, and I know a lot of the fantasy booktubers I follow all did a readathon over winter for the whole Winter Night trilogy, and I was supposed to join in, but I'm doing it now, so better late than never. Obviously, if anybody else wanted to join in and missed the original readathon, you can read this with me this month if you want. Then we have the book that is probably the epitome, the creme de la creme of dark fantasy and part of a massive 9-book series, which is technically 3 trilogies. And this is the first book, the one that started it all, the first book in the First Law trilogy, and that's The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. It follows Logan Ninefingers, a barbarian, crippled ex-swordman, now torturer, Inquisitor Glockter, Jezeel Dan Luthar, a selfish and narcissistic officer who dreams of glory, and Bayaz, a mage with mystic motives. And the 4 of them and their backstories are set up ready for the conflict that is to come in the future of the trilogy. Next, the lovey of booktube, it's Jade City by Fonda Lee. Now that I have all of the Greenbone saga, I will finally get round to reading them, having tried 3 times to get into this book, which is the first of the 3. I'm ready to give it just one more final go before deciding it isn't for me. I find it hard to quit most things that I hear nothing but praise for. And honestly, martial arts, mafia and superpowers, what's not to like? An East Asian inspired fantasy about intergenerational feuds with the Khal and Ait clans, gangsters, politics, magic and kung fu. Can't wait. Now, horror with When the Reckoning Comes by Latanya McQueen. And this is quite short. It's less than 250 pages, so it shouldn't take long after all those fantasies. And in fact, after the massive book I've left until the end of March, The Darkness That Comes Before, I'll be needing a few shorter books to refresh me. So this book is about a woman called Myra who fled her segregated hometown in the American South over a decade ago. She fled her past, her best friend, Celine, her neighbourhood and the creepy woodsman plantation that was said to be haunted by the spirits of slaves, and the memory of the day she saw a ghost and almost got Jesse, the boy she was in love with, arrested for murder. But now she's back to attend the wedding of Celine at the creepy plantation that's been transformed into a fancy wedding venue. But all that glitters isn't gold, and it hasn't even smoothed out the cracks in the oppressive, racist history of the place. And the darkest elements of the past begin to show themselves to Myra, Celine and Jesse, who are forced to save themselves from what's about to come. Sounds creepy, but I'm 100% not going to like the racism, I'm afraid. Then, if I have time, and because I popped this in at the last minute, it's Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. And she wrote The Yellow Wallpaper, in case you didn't know. And it was written in 1915. This will be a bit of a touchy subject for me, and maybe everyone, because it's not just about a bunch of women who kill all the men in their society. They also kill all the mentally ill and the disabled members of their society, which may be a little bit too much for me, being someone who does suffer with mental illness and sees disabilities and mental illness for a living. But I'm just here for the early feminist utopia writing, to be honest. And it was a gift I received for Christmas, so I'm willing to try it. So yeah, the blurb does say that it's an all-female utopia discovered by 3 male explorers tucked away in the distant reaches of Earth, and they're forced to reassess their assumptions on the female role after discovering it. We will see. Put them to one side. So my 2 library audiobooks will be The Cutting Room, which I did find recently for £1 while I was buying books, and Wranglestone. So The Cutting Room by Louise Welsh will be part of my Horror in Scotland that I'm trying to pull together so I can recommend the best of the best, in my opinion, obviously, of horror from the UK. It's about a promiscuous auctioneer who uncovers a hoard of sordid and disgusting photos that leads him to the dark underworld of nightclubs, pawn shops and depravity that hides behind decadence and desires. It's quite short, it's only 8 hours. And Wranglestone by Darren Charlton is a zombie young adult book about a post-apocalyptic town that is surrounded by water that keeps the dead at bay. But then, when the water freezes, what's to stop them walking over it? Apparently, it's an action-packed adventure for fans of The Walking Dead. Now, I haven't finished The Walking Dead. I haven't watched it since Negan killed off Glenn. So to me that was peak Walking Dead, so it's got a lot to live up to. Again, it's only 8 hours, so I think I'm going to run out of audiobooks before the end of the month, but we'll see. Now, ebooks, and I'll put them up here. And I think all of these are NetGalley books I was given in exchange for a review last year, and all of the books did come out in July of last year. And they are What Big Teeth by Rose Zabo. I think this is about a werewolf family, and it follows a girl named Eleanor who has run away from boarding school after some horrific incident that she can't remember, and her struggle to fit back in with her family, whom she thinks are monsters. We all think our family are monsters, darling. And Together We Will Go by Michael Straczynski, described as The Breakfast Club meets The Silver Linings Playbook. And considering I've never seen The Silver Linings Playbook, I'm intrigued. Nonetheless, it's about 12 strangers who are all meeting up to get a bus to find a cliff with a cracking view and then drive themselves over it. I'm going to imagine this is dark humoured and heartbreaking. And the last ebook is Other People's Clothes by Kala Henkel. Set in Berlin, it follows two American expats, Zoe and Haley. Together they rent an apartment from a novelist who is supposed to be in Vienna writing a novel. But they're convinced she's actually just watching them, writing about them. So they decide to give her something exciting to write about. Thank you, motorbike. They open a nightclub in the apartment that has no limits until the wheels come off and something terrible happens. And then it's Spring Flingaween. It's set over a long weekend from the 27th of April until the 30th. And I'll put both Gabby and Olivia's announcement videos in the description box for reference. But there's 3 prompts for the event, and the first one is read a book with pink or yellow on the cover. So I'm reading The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda because I get double prizes. It's got yellow and pink on the cover, and one of those annoying sticker not stickers. And this is about Avery, whose friend was found dead at the end of summer party they have every year. And without much investigation, the ruling by the police was suicide. Now Avery couldn't believe that, and now, a year later, there's new evidence to suggest it was murder. And guess what? Avery is now the main suspect. Gobsmacked and ostracised, Avery must clear her name. It's quite a bit chunky, but 341 pages. I have a feeling it will fly by, and if it grabs me, I can finish the book in one sitting, as long as it follows the rules of thrillers and plays by those rules of short chapters that end on cliffhangers. Them's the rules. Prompt number 2 is to read a horror or thriller that you've had for a while. And that for me is The Rats. And for extra points, it also has yellow on the cover. By James Herbert. It's about, shock, rats who develop a taste for human flesh, and they're spreading across the city of London. They're coming to get you, Barbara. And then the prompt number 3 is to have an autumnal drink or snack to bring Halloween to spring. I'm not sure about this just yet. I could have something appley. I can't really think of anything that sums up Halloween other than a massive bag of sweets. In the UK, we don't really go for the whole Halloween festivities. So the first thing that springs to mind is apples for autumn. So I need to think more on prompt number 3. Any ideas? Let me know. that's it. My April TBR is locked in. Let me know in the comments what you're reading next month. If you've read any of these, what did you think of them? As always, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you again next week when I think will be March's wrap up. So until then, bye bye.